Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of the Unlimited Power TCG YouTube channel. Where this episode I am privileged and honoured to go over all the results from the UK Games Expo Star Wars Unlimited convention events that took place this weekend just gone. So this is a 3-day event that runs over the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And what Star Wars Unlimited have done here in conjunction with OPE Organised Play Events is they've run three 128 player events, one on each day. The first one and the second one on the Friday and Saturday were each, the first 7 rounds were won best of one, 25-minute rounds, before culminating in a top 8 cut, which was then done as a knockout best of three 55-minute rounds. And the Sunday was done as best of three all the way with no top cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the maths, some of the numbers here. There's links to all of the event results and reportings by OPE on their events page using Limitless in the video description below if you want to take a look at them yourself. And I'm going to go through showing you all the deck lists for all of the top 8 players for the Friday and the Saturday. And for the Sunday, I'm showing you the top 13 because that is showing both undefeated players and all the ones who only dropped one match in that, so the most successful players in that one. And finally, we're going to take a look at the overall meta picture, combining all of the decks that were played over all 3 days, all events, almost 2,100 games of Star Wars Unlimited, and see which leaders were the most represented and which ones won the most often. So, yeah, let's get into it, shall we? First off, one of the big deals about this event is that the Grogu event exclusive card is being given away for the very first time in the world at the UK Games Expo. It was given away as a participation prize to everybody who took part in one of the events. If you took part in more than one, you got given more than one Grogu. And everybody at the expo who went and played at the demo tables, which was open to anybody at the expo. The expo itself is a massive Gen Con scale event that takes place at the Birmingham National Exhibition Centre using the Hilton Hotel there and all of its function rooms, as well as 4 aircraft hangar sized warehouses, show halls to show off miniatures, board games, traders, dice, accessories, gadgets, gizmos, everything you can imagine in the world of collective nerdery is all in one place at this show. It takes place at this sort of time of year, every year, end of May, start of June, and it's wonderful. It's been great watching it grow. I'm lucky enough to live quite local to it and visit it fairly frequently every year, so that's all cool. But yeah, so Grogu was given out. Anybody who was at the show got the opportunity to have a demo of Star Wars Unlimited and get given a free Grogu event exclusive card. Um, Present also at the demo desk was game developer John Leo, and very occasionally VP of Strategy of FFG Jim Cartwright was around as well. So some lucky people got their cards and game mats and other bits signed by these luminaries of the game. Um, but the real star of the show was the prize for the top 8 for Friday, the top 8 for Saturday, and it was announced to be the top 12 on Sunday, but given that 13 was kind of the same sort of 5 and 1 record rather than 12, I'm not sure if that got changed or not, but either way, that was what OP advertised. This is an event exclusive mat using currently unreleased Set 2 artwork and looked absolutely gorgeous in person. So yeah, that was on the line. This is the day 1 overview. Excuse me. Sorry, just showing you there the relative numbers of decks that were played on Friday. It was a 128 player event, but only 121 showed and registered and played on the day. You got some percentages for representation. You got some win-loss records there. Again, if you want to take a deeper look into this, do please pause it. I'll go into more detail of a combined thing, as I mentioned, right at the very end. And this was the top 8 and their results at the end of the Swiss rounds going into the top 8 cut. So you can see that Boba is obviously represented there pretty heavily. 1 Darth Vader deck and 2 Sabine decks. And we're going to go through all these decks shortly. But this was a win path that was taken. Who knocked out whom? And as you can see, the final there was Michael O versus Sebastian B. And all backwards from there, from the semi-finals to quarterfinals and so on. And starting with the final standings. So, knocked out in the quarterfinals of the top 8, this was Straw Swords Boba Yellow deck. I'm not going to go into these in massive amounts of detail again. If you want to analyse them, look at them, pause them, take a look, you're more than welcome to do so. I myself sparked a heroic win record of 3-4, so I'm not feeling massively qualified to commentate horrendously well on competitive matters as to whether they should have played Change of Heart, whether Waylays should have been dropped, or whether people should have played other cards instead of Shoot First and all this kind of jazz. If you play it and got to top 8, you deserve to have run and won exactly what you did with, so props to you. Next up, Scrub Games. This is their top 8 deck running Vader Blue. Again, that all looks reasonably standard as far as I can see. Yeah, nothing too surprising in there. Well, Force Surrender included in there is pretty interesting. Cool. Django Bob Jr.'s Boba Green deck knocked out in the quarterfinals there. Running Relentless in the sideboard, which only mattered, of course, in the top 8 because that was the only thing that was best of 3. The rest of it was all best of 1. Then you got Big O Notations Boba Yellow deck. And following on, we get to those who were knocked out in the semi-finals. Krishif D's Boba Yellow deck, accompanied by Ellis C's Sabine Green deck, fairly classic Sabine Green deck, although also running U-Ring Reinforcement notably, which is not something you see in many Sabine Green decks at the very least. And then the final was Buku, who was running Sabine Yellow with this lovely deck here in front of us, beating almost everybody in this tournament except Michael O, who took first place on day 1 with this Boba Yellow deck, which is again looking fairly classic Boba Yellow, with the exception of having Snapshot Reflexes in main deck instead of Shoot Firsts, which is in his sideboard, which is an interesting choice, and clearly paid off for him. Day 2 was the full 128 players. Boba Fett running the most popular of all, once again. This was the top 8 of Day 2 at the end of the Swiss rounds. And this is a path to victory for Day 2, who played who won who, and who knocked out. And again, we'll just go through those deck list images reasonably quickly, with me not embarrassing myself too much by showing my knowledge or thereof for the decks. Josh Bloodshot's Harn Green. Yeah, that's pretty much like any Harn Green deck I've seen and played. Nothing too shocking in there. Next up you got Jean-Jay's top 8 Boba Green deck. That is very solidly classic Boba Green, with the possible exception of running Relentless main deck. 2 copies of. Obviously to give him a bit more punch late game and to deal with some of the hard control decks, getting rid of Super Laser Blast and all that sort of jazz, running into the 9 resource and beyond turns. Jack Mooney's top 8 Harn Green deck is again another classic Harn Green deck. Again, nothing too unexpected in a quick glance over on that one. H Trader made top 8, knocked out in the quarterfinals for Day 2, running Iden Green there, which again doesn't seem to. Oh, he's running Rook main deck. That's an interesting choice. You don't see Rook main deck very often. Wonder how that did for him. Well, obviously it did fairly well. He got into the top 8. Yeho Sarah was knocked out in the semi-finals, running Harn Green as well. Another fairly solid and classic Harn Green deck in there, although the inclusion of Frontline Shuttle is obviously an interesting point of difference. The Big G took top 4 with his Boba Yellow deck. That is seeing many points of similarity with most of the other Boba Yellow decks we've seen so far, and we'll continue to see, I'm sure. Chris Anderson's second place deck from the final was Boba Green, running Cunning with aspect penalty, and otherwise a fairly solid usual Boba Green deck. Again, nothing too surprising in there, but obviously he's piloted it exceptionally well to have come second place on day 2. And the winning deck on day 2 was a Iden mono blue deck run by Ithiel Arki, a fairly solid hard control deck, which runs all the things you would expect to see: the mill, the restocks, the make an opening, the removals, the Lieutenant Childson. Yes, I'm saying Lieutenant, I'm not calling it Lieutenant because I am speaking proper King's English these days. Yeah, there we go. Congratulations, Ithiel. Right, moving on to day 3. This was the breakdown of day 3, which was best of 3 all the way. 115 players out, the 128 maximum capacity. Poor Cassian. One Cassian deck there, lost 3 games, and must have dropped at that point, which is obviously a shame, but Cassian's... It's no real news to anyone that Cassian's not a meta deck at the moment, which is a shame, but it also is what it is. These were the standings for those who went undefeated through the day 3 events, and also went 5-1, only dropped 1 game. And we'll go through these decks here shortly. Some names in there obviously cropping up again from days 1 and 2. So yeah, right. First up, we've got the winner of day 3, Debris Gaming. Yeah. Either way, it's a Vader Green deck, fairly solid, fairly classic. Traitorous Palps, Overwhelming Barrage, Vaders, Force Chokes, Resupplies, Ramps. Yeah, there we go. Is there no Super Laser Tech in this? No, there is. I've just missed him. He's on the far left. Yeah, Super Laser Tech and Resupply. Cool. Yeah. Pretty solidly beefy in there with Relentless and Devastator in the sideboard. Second place was Howie with his Palpatine blue deck, which is going to be a very scary prospect for anybody to face. Certainly scares me. Ithiel Arki, the winner from day 2, took third place on day 3 with their Iden blue deck. I say third place. I mean, at this point they went 5-1, and anyone who went 5-1 is much the same sort of position as all the other 5-1s, with the difference mainly being in strength of schedule. Big O notation with their Boba yellow deck here, followed up by Luke Foster taking 5th place, pseudo 5th place, going 5-1 with Han red. Very tasty. Looking like an almost Sabine quality early game aggro build, but using Han instead of Sabine. Interesting. Cool. Well done, Luke. Good job. Twilgrim here also went 5-1 with his Krennic green deck. Again, not running anything that stamps out at me as massively surprising in this deck. All the things in there that you would expect to see in such a deck. Let's get rid of Discord. If you heard that, I have no idea, but the bleeps going on are very distracting and unprofessional, so we'll get rid of those. Next up, Inf Dave, which I will have to assume is in short for Inferno Dave. I don't have to assume that, but I'm going to assume it anyway. Running Iden red, went 5-1. Delmico 3 of. Charlton takedowns, vigilances, mills. No restocks main deck, they're all in the sideboard. Super Laser Entrenched, Bombing Run, yeah, pretty solid hard control deck there. OJ took 9th place with Boba Green. I've met OJ quite a few times and played against him a couple of times, and he's been playing Boba Green solidly for the last month and a half at least that I'm aware of, and pilots it very well, of course, because he's gone 5-1 on day 3 there. David Payton went 5-1 with this Palpatine yellow deck. That's going to throw some people. Very late game playing here. Main decking Devastator and Relentless. Tasty. Syndicate Lackeys, Bosk. Ouch. Interesting deck indeed. Cool. And 5 and 1 is Jean again from day 2, placing again in day 3 with Boba Green. Again, a classic Boba Green deck here. Nothing too unexpected in the main deck there, which is why it's quite so powerful. Silk took 5th place with Mono Iden Blue, also running Delmico Charlton, all the usual removal mill suite of cards. Main decking restock this deck, which is fair enough. And finally, for the day 3 deck coverages, we've got JDI Jedi 98 running Sabine Green with what appears to have been a day full of more hard control decks. Maybe they saw what took place on days 1 and 2 and decided to swap into the more hard control to counter the Sabine and Boba metas that were taking place in there, because these are being reported through OP and Limitless platform almost in real time, which is awesome. So yeah, that's an overview of the decks that performed exceptionally well at the UK Games Expo this year 2024, and here I've taken the liberty of pulling together all and combining the deck representations from all 3 days, so you can see that Boba is by far and away the most represented deck out of all of them, followed by Sabine, Han, Vader and Iden, before dropping down in percentages to Krennic, Leia, Luke, Palpatine, and then sadly pulling up the bottom there you've got Chewbacca with 1 deck, 1 Thrawn deck and 1 Jyn Erso deck, which is a shame to see, but if nobody has found a way to yet make them work, then that is the way, I guess. Reordering the data a little bit so you can see in order of win-loss ratio. We'd probably have to discount Jyn and IG88 at the top, despite having exceptionally high win-loss ratios. Playing only 5 games, playing only 14 games out of 2,100 games taking place over all 3 days. Kind of means we can't really take that data too usefully. Iden Versio with an almost 55% win rate. Here, Syndulla very close, but again, not that many games played in this case. Although Han at 52, Palpatine at 52%, Krennic at 51%, Boba 50% win ratio, or near as close on that one. This shows that there's a big gap between the amount of people playing it and the amount of people playing it very, very well. Sabine, again, almost a 50% win ratio. And then on down from there. So yeah, that's all the data we've got from the UK Games Expo. I hope you found it enlightening. Do please feel free to go back and pause whatever decks you want to take a look at, examine them, pull them apart, give us some comments on what you thought was good if you were there, share your experiences, how it was for you, and look forward to it. We've also got a very special episode coming up very soon where, well, I'm not going to give away too much for it, but if you're interested in how the top players do, how they play, why they play and what they go into, then keep your eyes peeled on this channel very soon. Thanks very much. Cheers for tuning in and watching, as always. If you do find value in our content, please do all the usual YouTube algorithmic stuff of the liking and the subscribing and the commenting and the sharing and all that jazz. If you're in the UK, do please consider having a look at our friend of the channel, Spellbound Games, who's got their pre-orders up for Set 2 Shadows of the Galaxy right now. And aside from that, enjoy your games, enjoy Star Wars. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.